Estimated 7.1 billion hours and $148 billion just to file taxes this year. And with the tax deadline just 5 days away, the National Taxpayers Union has released its annual tax complexity study, which will only get worse, they said, if Congress doesn't act to look and lock in those key provisions of the 2017 tax cuts. Joining us this morning is the Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union, Brandon Arnold. Good morning to you, sir. Good to see you, as always.
Good morning.
Real reform means more than just about lowering rates. So talk about this study and what else your organization found, including the billions lost in productivity just to file taxes.
Yeah, it's really staggering here. We spend, as you mentioned, 7.1 billion hours just to comply with our taxes. And my heart goes out to so many Americans right now who are in the thick of it, trying to meet that deadline of April 15 and get their taxes filed. But the tax code has become an absolute nightmare for the average American. It has gotten so complex, so complicated, and so difficult to comply with. We all know we would rather be doing virtually anything rather than completing our taxes each and every year. And Congress really needs to step up their game and simplify the entire process.
And you say it's imperative Congress also makes these 2017 tax cuts permanent because that would keep the larger standard deduction, so you're not trying to, itemize. What about a flat tax?
Yeah, you're totally speaking my language here, Jen. I would love to see a flat tax. That's kind of the holy grail of tax reform, where you bulldoze the entire tax code, simplify it to the point where you only have one rate or just a few rates. That would be a dream. But in the meantime, we're just trying to extend what was passed in 2017. One of the best things about that bill, as you mentioned, was the doubling of the standard deduction. So now more than 91% of taxpayers can take the standard deduction rather than itemizing. It's a much easier, simpler process, and we need to make sure that's locked in because otherwise it's going to expire at the end of this year.
How badly is the IRS in need of a tech upgrade?
It's unbelievable. They are still using technology that is based in the 1960s, rooted in the 1960s. It is mind-blowing that they have prioritized other functions such as enforcement and auditing when they ought to be focused on things like modernization and customer service. Really unbelievable. And that is a major reason why taxpayers are struggling with the tax code right now, because they don't understand how to complete their taxes, and they're not getting a prompt response from the IRS when they bring questions to them.
Yeah, and we're seeing so many more gig workers now, to your point. So how challenging and burdensome are these, 1099 reporting requirements this year?
Yeah, the economy moves fast. We're seeing this proliferation of gig workers, people who are delivering groceries, who are driving Ubers, things like that. It's a completely different economy, and the IRS isn't prepared for it. Unfortunately, under the Biden administration, they worked with Congress and cracked down on gig workers, creating more complexity, more paperwork filing for people that are doing things just as simple as clearing out their basement and selling unneeded junk. They can get ensnared in this 1099K process and get forms. So unfortunately, the tax code too often moves in the more complicated direction rather than towards simplification.
Where should the IRS begin, Brandon, with making some of these changes?
Well, the first step should be an easy one, and that is let's get an IRS commissioner in place. We have cycled through a couple temporary commissioners since the start of this administration. It's time to have somebody at the IRS that is willing to roll up his or her sleeves and actually prioritize modernization and taxpayers. Former Congressman Billy Long is the pick of President Trump. He has gotten held up in the process. It would be great if we had somebody like Congressman Long there that can actually make the changes that are necessary at the IRS and get this agency working the way it's supposed to.
And you also say we need to reconstitute and revitalize the IRS Oversight Board, correct?
Absolutely. That was created back in the 90s, and we haven't had a functioning oversight board for many times. We need an external body that can look at what IRS is doing, provide them with constructive criticism, and hold their feet to the fire when they are not treating taxpayers properly.
Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union, Brandon Arnold, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jen.
All right.